Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, MBC Lifestyles Diary. My name is Marie, I live in New York, and I love shopping and travel and cultural events, and I'm asking you to join me on the adventure.
Today we're in Brooklyn. I don't even recognize this part of Brooklyn. There's been so much change. I was so disoriented, but we're in Brooklyn, a few blocks down from BAM. So what am I doing in Brooklyn? I'm heading to the Ace Hotel. I'm going to listen to a talk by Lileana Blain-Cruz and Missy Mazzoli. They're collaborating on a new opera at the Met that will be presented around fall of 2026. The story that it's based on is a book by George Saunders called Lincoln in Bardo. Sponsoring this event is also the magazine Bomb. Bomb is a magazine by creatives. It comes out 4 times annually, and it's a thick, dense magazine filled with what all the creatives are doing. So that was a nice treat because they also gave you a drink ticket, and there was wine and Prosecco. The other thing is, I'm really in love with the Ace Hotel. I'm glad I found this out. I hear there's a rooftop and there's some nice restaurants, but the vibe was really good. It was really cool. Brooklyn cool. Back to the topic at hand. Missy and Lileana, this will be their second collaboration. The first one was for an opera called The Listeners. That was wonderful, and that's when I got to travel to Norway to see this opera. I really enjoyed that experience, and I'm looking forward to this one. I'm also looking forward to the performance. So they have the 2 singers and the pianist here to perform, and I remembered how moving it was when we were at the National Sawdust for El Nino. Please, if you enjoy this, give us a thumbs up. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe.
And it's very interesting and exciting to watch your faces, like a creepy person, to see how you're responding to the material. So, I'm going to start the question for you, Missy. How does one get a commission, and then where do you begin from there? How did you arrive at Lincoln in the Bardo? What was the process like for you?
Sure, yeah, I think that this process is mysterious for most people. Back in 2018, I was commissioned by the Met to write a new opera. Yay! This is my 5th opera, and it's obviously a dream to be working at the Met. That's the understatement of the year for me. This is really huge. So, and Peter Gell called me into his office, and I didn't want to jinx the meeting by preparing. Because if I prepare, then this will all go away. It will all be a dream, and it will not be real. If I pretend like it's not happening, then it's going to be great. And Peter said, well, what are you thinking of? What subjects are you thinking of doing? And of course, I was like, totally went blank. And then but George Saunders is my favorite writer. And I had Lincoln in the Bardo had just recently come out, so I kind of blurted out, Lincoln in the Bardo. And everyone at the Met was great, they were very excited about it. And so they encouraged us to get the rights. And usually getting the rights to adapt something is this whole drawn out, crazy process. I think my lawyer who helped me with that tonight is here. Yes, Clark, I love you, thank you. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. We contacted George, and George Saunders said the most amazing thing. He said, I'm so glad you contacted me, because when I wrote this novel, I imagined it as an opera. I don't write operas, I write novels. I was like, I write operas. And so it was just really this amazingly, comparatively easy process. And so we got the rights, and then my librettist, Bladverk, who's my longtime collaborator, set about this really Herculean task of taking this novel, which has 117 characters, and it's just, if you've read it, it's not a typical novel, it's very experimental. The formatting is mostly written like a play, and there are interjections of like news articles and all these different perspectives and all these different voices, and he translated that to something that would work on the stage, which I then set to music. All of that took like 5 years. And I just 2 weeks ago finished the score for it. And it will be for full chorus, a lot of principal singers, full orchestra, There's some crazy instruments in the pit that you don't usually find at the Met. And that you don't usually find in an orchestra, and so I'm just very excited. This is a story that let me really unleash my imagination. I think I was like a couple months into writing it, and then I realized, I was like, wait, everyone's a ghost. Like literally the only living person in the opera is Abraham Lincoln, so these ghosts are not bound by reality. And if you've read the novel, you know that they all have these weird afflictions, like one sprouts multiple eyes, and the Reverend's face is frozen in this like rictus of horror because of what he's seeing. And so that really set me free musically. And then I had the great fortune of working with this wonderful woman. So then, we're kind of at that point right now where we're like turning over the music to you. So maybe you can tell us what happens next.
Yeah, what happens next, friends? It's kind of the question of like, what does a director do, right? What does a director do? And in many ways, like this is the kind of critical, pivotal moment where you're receiving all of this information. So I've had a chance to read Royce's libretto, and I got to witness a workshop in Cincinnati where I got to hear singers sing it for the first time, and now this next iteration will be hearing the orchestra, because it's all in many ways about figuring out how to tell the story, right? So you have these wonderful things like, great, and now people matter light bloom. What is that? What does that mean? How do you do that? And so much of the director's job in collaboration with designers is building the world, building the container where the story unfolds. Like, how do you move through a universe that is a Bardo? How do you help the audience understand that Lincoln is the only one alive, but everybody else thinks that they're alive? How do you understand that a Bardo is a liminal space? How do you understand how a group of angels try to convince people it's time to transition? What do you do for the Reverend's speech when they're recalling this kind of crazy moment between themselves as they encounter what it means to be judged? How do you manifest that in the most epic and clear of ways so that you can stay inside the journey of what is essentially a really dense text? I come from the theater, which is why I like to jump off my stool and stare at you in the eyes in complicated ways. But it's kind of like, how do you, in the theater in some ways, you have a little bit different kind of control of time, right? In opera, you've built time, you know what I mean? You've built experience. You talked a little bit about how you have to essentialize what's inside the book. And so as a director, it's then in that kind of expanded moment in song, finding out how to land the event, both the emotional event, but also the physical event, or whatever kind of critical action is happening inside of the moment. And that's essentially where we are now, building that world, building that environment, dreaming of what it can be and how it can move inside a space that's grand as the Met. Yes? I'm gonna keep making you guys say things so that you don't stare at awkwardly. If you hear me, say yes!
Yes!
Wonderful. Okay, so Missy, who's embarrassed, talk to us of, like, what was that process like? How, you talked a little bit about the density of the book, like 117 characters, many different voices. How did you and Royce come to where you are now in your distillation?
Yeah, I think distillation is the word. So even if you're adapting like a short story for an opera, you're taking a lot out, because opera stretches, when someone's singing a line of text, it stretches it out, and it takes a lot longer to get that text out. So you multiply that by however many lines of text are in this opera, and it's like things take a longer time to say. And so it was a lot of deciding what characters were essential, and this was like, again, years and years of work, just not wanting to lose the sort of beautiful cacophony of voices that are in this novel, but making it something that could happen on a stage with real people instead of in all of our imagination.
You suffered. So sick, so sick, so sick, so sick, so